Hey, it is us, John, and
Richard?
there you go. Hey, it's Bronze and Modern Gods. Here's all the usual stuff. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. If you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe. It really does help us. Hit the notification bell. You guys that are not getting notifications and you're on your phones, your mobile device, you have to go into notifications, go to YouTube, and then click notifications on. It's not going to happen automatically. We've got viewer mail today, the return of viewer mail. Underrated books of the week. It's time for the 25-year rules turn this week. But first, we have an exciting announcement. Richard, we're doing our first live stream at a convention.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm coming out to meet you for California Comic Con.
This is California Comic Con, a great show put on by Terry O'Neill. Richard and I have been to the show several. Well, Richard, you've only been once. I've been several times. This is where the infamous FF number 5 was purchased, right?
Yes, me and my wad of $100 bills. Yeah.
For the people who have watched the show for a long time, you know this story. California Comic Con is happening Sunday, February 5th at the Westin South Coast Plaza, the Westin Hotel by South Coast Plaza here in Costa Mesa, California. We will be broadcasting live from the Short Boxed booth.
Yeah, well, looking forward to it. Gene, we're coming.
Yeah, so come out, say hi, get some great books. If you have not been to California Comic Con before, it is for our audience. Let me tell you, there's no cosplay, there's no panels with the fifth lead from Babylon 5. It is 100% comics, buying, selling, trading. If you go to calcomiccon.com, again, that's calcomiccon.com, you can get more information, buy tickets, and we will see you there Sunday, February 5th.
Yep, looking forward to it.
And Richard, let's get started with our hot book of the week. Tell the folks what it is.
It's Amazing Spider-Man number 17, specifically the 1 in 100 Disney variant.
Have you seen this?
I have. It's a black and white cover of Avengers number 4. It's an homage to Avengers number 4, and it features Disney characters. It's cute. I like the cover. I'm a big fan of the fact that Disney owns Marvel, and therefore you're seeing this kind of cross pollination of characters.
I would say.
Yeah, I like Daisy Duck in the little box where Submariner should be.
It's cute.
Yeah, it's cute. It's a cute book.
Do you believe it's selling for 150 to 225 on eBay raw already? It came out Wednesday.
I do believe it. Like I said, I think this cross pollination of characters is popular, and yeah, I see this book having some staying power, whether it's long term or just here in the next 12 months. But yeah, if you see it for $150, yeah, it's going for that.
It's 1 in 100, so there's not a lot of them out there. I don't think Spider-Man 17 was spec'd on heavily by retailers. So there may be some true scarcity here. Just one caveat, I can't help but putting a caveat out there. There are a lot more of these coming down the pike in the next few months. There's a Hulk number 1 homage, several more that will have an Iron Man number 1 or an Iron Man homage. I believe it's from Extremis. So there's more to come. I think this is sexy because it's the first one.
Yeah. Well, actually, Marvel did when the Marvel 1000 came out.
Oh yeah,
a couple years ago, they did a Disney variant, and that has really held its value. I actually got one from my local comic book store and turned around and sold it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, well, it's good for good money. So you're right. I don't know if this book is going to hit those kinds of highs, but if there's more of these coming out, I wasn't aware that they were having additional ones, and yeah, that might dilute the value of this long term.
Well, I think it depends on what it is. This one's Avengers 4, so it's fun. You got Mickey as Cap and Donald Duck with Thor's hammer, like having that reaction, typical Donald reaction. I think the Hulk number 1 with Goofy, I kind of want that one myself, so I can see that one doing well. But I don't know if anybody's going to want Mickey as Iron Man from, the Extremis era.
Right.
I think it just really will depend on the cover. For this one, the regular variant cover is still selling for cover price on eBay if you really want some version of this and you don't want to shell out $150.
Yeah, yeah. I like you said, this is it's not put out because there's some significance in the book of a Disney crossover. It's just the cover
Yeah.
for the specific variant. So yeah.
All right, let's move on to long last viewer mail. You
You've
guys
got
have been
mail.
hitting us up the last few weeks, and we're going to catch up a bit. Richard, start us off.
Yeah, my first piece is from friend of the show, Jason Brownell. And this is talking about Sabertooth. And we talked a bit about him previous show. Sabertooth has his own book, Sabertooth and the Exiles. He was cast into the island or cast off the island, I'm assuming, for refusing to play by the rules of Krakoa. His motivations to hate the X-Men are in full force in this new light. Yeah, Sabertooth, we talked about Sabertooth being a significant villain for a Wolverine, and with Wolverine coming to the MCU in the next Deadpool movie, we know we're going to see some kind of some version of Sabertooth. I'm almost positive we'll see. It's good to know, even with the reboot that they did for the X-Men, that Sabertooth still is playing a big role. I haven't really read most of the new run, so this is good information. Thank you very much, Jason, for letting us know.
Yeah, ditto. I had no idea what's going on with Sabertooth. But my first piece of viewer mail continues along the Sabertooth lines, where I mentioned that he was featured in one of the unpublished final issues of Miss Marvel. And Julius Maloney writes, the Ms. Marvel titles were finally printed in Volume 2 of Marvel Superheroes issues 10 and 11. That's correct, including what was supposed to be the first appearance of Rogue. Sabretooth is on the cover with Ms. Marvel for issue 10. As John stated, it closed Ms. Marvel's original run. Why they didn't just print the last 2 issues under the original banner, I'll never understand. Yeah, if they're done and dusted. I think the last issue was only halfway done, and
Mhm.
they completed it for Marvel Superheroes number 11. But yeah, I guess it must have been selling so badly that it just cut your losses and move on.
Yeah, it's one of those things you really wish you had some insider information on.
We might have that very soon. Hint, hint, with someone from that era who was in charge. But move on to your next piece of viewer mail.
My next piece is from a Ganjabar's Medium. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. They're talking about a new name for the age that we're in. Modern has been something that's been hanging around with us since what John? What did you say? The late
The
90s?
Copper Age, yeah. After the Copper Age ends in 95, I guess, 92, 95.
Yeah, so modern has lasted. If we're still in modern, has been an extended time. So do we peel off at a certain point and start a new age? And Gunjabar is recommending the variant age is a good option. A new age is needed. I think that the art of the last 10 years or so has set themselves apart from the modern era. So yeah,
Good or bad.
Yeah, that's a good point. Variant A sounds great. It sounds like a great name. It definitely shows kind of the focus. I think we're running out of, bronze, silver, copper. I'm running out
Mm.
of elements that make sense. So yeah, Variant Age makes a lot of sense given both Marvel and DC's, preference for putting out dozens of covers for popular books.
Yeah, especially now. This might, instead of calling the period from 95 to like 2000 or 2005, 2010 the variant age. I think now is the variant age. Maybe that's the, I don't know, tin age or whatever. Speaking of modern comics and the modern age, the next piece of your mail is in response to our top modern age books to collect. And it comes to us from Mark LaPuma. Please tell me that's your real name, Mark. Please. That is the coolest name ever, Mark LaPuma. Regarding Something is Killing the Children, I do think it is a great modern book to have in the PC. I believe the book was heavily specced on when it was announced as optioned with Netflix. Then it got another bump when the amazing writer director Mike Flanagan was announced as the showrunner. The book's value began to drop after Mike Flanagan left Netflix for Amazon to take on The Dark Tower for a series epic. And he's excited about that. Regardless, I think there is a cachet of great directors and writers that could take on the Something is Killing the Children project, with the book becoming a potential Walking Dead level collector's item. Just my opinion, it makes a great read. Maybe people just got jaded from all the variant covers, especially once House of Slaughter dropped. House of Slaughter, I'm guilty. I bought, I don't know how many variants of that #1 because it just
I
seemed
did
like a
too.
slam dunk, right?
Yeah, I did too. I'm guilty of that too. But then again, I bought a lot of variants. I was in on this series early, so I have a number of versions of #1 of this series as they came out over the years. I agree. I agree with Mark here. I think this is a really really important book. It's if you think about titles, modern titles that are original stories, I think this one really hits the note for the horror genre. And I think in the future we're going to see something else happen to this title. I hope it shows up on as a TV show. Um, if not a TV show, maybe a movie. Who knows? I think there's a lot of potential here.
So you're on firmly on the hold side.
Yes, I am firmly on the hold side. Absolutely.
I'm selling. All right, your next piece of your mail.
My next piece is from this is from Spider's Comics, and this is a longer post. I it was longer than I wanted to read here, but if you go to our previous show, you'll see this post, and I think it's a good post and a lot of details to it and links, which I love. So talking about Amazing Spider-Man number 238 and specifically the tattoo situation with that book. I think the tattoo situation is a lot more complex than what has occurred, which is CGC deeming it a green label and the community following their lead, meaning if the tattoos are not present, then the
Right.
book gets a green label. There are at least 18 Marvel comics that have been recorded to include tattoos. The closest sibling to ASM 238 is Fantastic Four number 252, which also had the advertisement on the cover. None of these books, including Fantastic Four, have 100% inclusion of the tattoos. The idea that every single number 238 left the printers with an insert seems far fetched when we look at the haphazard approach to the other issues of that month. He goes on to to more specific information. It's really interesting. If you have an opportunity, again, read it. Yeah, I didn't realize that there were 18 other titles that had tattoos. Did you know that, John?
I didn't know there were 18. You guys tell us in the comments which some of the other ones were. I do know Fantastic Four 252 had them because if I'm remembering correctly, we're going to see right here when I put the cover up in editing, it's the sideways issue. And
Ah,
it had, yeah, and it had the little lakeside tattoos included inside. And I remember buying that off the stands and seeing it.
mhm, I do too. I don't remember seeing. I have an issue in my collection. I don't remember seeing the tattoos in it. So I'll have to
Yeah.
go back and take a look.
But from what we know about printing errors and variants and things like that, anything's possible. You guys all chime in the comments because we want to get a little more perspective on this from you guys and your experience with this because we don't know for sure. My next piece of viewer mail, I'm really glad that this person left a comment or two because, it's a total sausage party in here every week for the most part. So we have a comment from Nerdy Old Woman. Love that name. My top three favorite long term spec Bronze Age runs would be Uncanny X Men, Dark Knight
Yes.
Returns,
Okay.
and Miller's Daredevil run. Yeah,
Awesome trio.
slam dunks all three.
Yep.
Nerdy Old Woman also adds, oh, and Wendy and Richard Peeny's ElfQuest as a key bronze independent comic book. One of the first big one, I think, you can argue Jack Katz, the Kingdom. I'm
Mm.
blanking on the name. First Kingdom, I think is what it was called. Was also one of the first independently distributed comics that was not an underground. But ElfQuest, so underrated.
I know. I've been secretly picking up ElfQuest, the larger format books when I see them. When I was in Florida this summer, they had a stack of them that I just rated because this just like she thinks, I think it's an important book, and I think it's completely undervalued.
Here's the thing about ElfQuest. Imagine having a job, a full-time job, and saying, you know what? I'm going to take a chance. We're going to take our savings. We're going to take our money and follow our bliss, follow our dream, and put it all into this book that we're going to write and produce and distribute ourselves, and just hanging on by your fingernails, hoping it works. I mean, talk about brave.
Yeah.
And they just don't get enough respect. And, you know, we talk about the image guys and how they changed the industry, and they did. But man, the roots were absolutely planted here. So good one, nerdy old woman. Thank you for that. What's your next piece of your mail?
My next piece is from DOS Comics. Thanks for the advice on the poly bag for UF4. I have been on the fence about removing my copy from the bag, being that it came shipped from Marvel in the bag. But thinking about it, the book cannot be graded in the bag, so the bag, really serves no purpose. Both of your reasoning about the damage the bag can actually cause pushed me off the fence. My UF4 is now out of the bag. Yay! I am pleased to say there is no crease. I would look very, very carefully. If you're planning on submitting it, I would still think about pressing it because,
Look at the back cover under a strong light and tilt it and look at it at angles.
yeah, it can be subtle. The copy that I've had several copies of this book, and I've had copies where it is very, very subtle. Um, uh, the one corner is not perfect. It's a 9.6 at best. Still awesome. Thanks for the advice. Yeah, 9.6 is still a great copy. We're so just hung up on 9.8s as being the ultimate. Um,
No
if
pun intended.
but yeah, definitely. I'm glad you took it out of the bag. I'm glad you're going to protect it because that bag is just sliding around in there. It's just gonna get rubs and damaged in that bag. And like you say, you can't get it graded in the bag. If you send it in a bag to CGC, they would have to cut it out of the bag to actually do the grading. So
They will remove it themselves. Absolutely.
definitely is something that you want to do and take an opportunity to press it if you're planning on submitting it. So, yep. Thank you very much.
My last piece of viewer mail is in response to an offhand comment I made during the 40-year rule, old fart rule segment about 1983, where I said 1983 is the best year for music ever in history, and I stand by that statement. Cujo Bite writes, 1983 music, Blue Monday by New Order,
Yes.
Every Breath You Take by The Police,
Okay.
Separate Ways by Journey. Okay,
Yes.
fine. Bowie, Let's Dance, Echo and the Bunnymen, The Cutter. Yeah, you're right. Never realized how much great music came out that year. Great video, guys. Thank you. I will take the opportunity to add a few more to my list here that I happen to have on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
REM's first album, Murmur. Even like lower tier hits that we don't hear anymore were awesome back then. Dead Giveaway by Shalimar was in 1983. Photograph by Def Leppard. It's a Mistake by Men at Work. Men at Work's second album, Cargo. Naked Eyes, Always Something There to Remind Me. Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan. Just even crap like Hot Girls in Love by Loverboy. Kills anything that's coming out today, right?
Yeah, Smiths had an album out in '83, didn't they? I
Their
know they.
debut record, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just an amazing, and we're biased. I'll admit I have a strong bias because that's the music. It's a soundtrack to my 20s, and it's just amazing music, and I can't I can't think of very many artists that have the same kind of impact as the ones that John just mentioned.
There was
Um,
something in the air then, it was MTV was only 2 years old, so they were more adventurous and putting things out there. You could survive by being an artist full time back then in some ways because uh, there were subsidizations. We'll get into all this. I'm a music industry guy. Don't get me started. But 1983, best year for music ever. Second place, probably 1978. I agree with you. 1984, third place. But just check it out. Gosh, 40 years ago. That means it's time for the 25-year rule. Weren't expecting that, were you?
Oh, we were just talking about, I'm a huge, Sundays fan, and we're talking about it being the 33rd anniversary of their first album, so
We're recording this on Sunday, January 15th. The Sunday's debut record, Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic, was released 33 years ago today. Probably, definitely top three albums of all time for me. I can
yeah.
listen to Joy on a loop for
Oh,
24 hours and I wouldn't care.
I still have a crush on Harriet Wheeler, so
Everyone has a crush. I have a crush on Harriet Wheeler. Okay. We got to see them live too.
yes, we did. Yeah, John and I, we went to go see it was the Baby tour.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but
Oh,
we
we
got
saw
to
them
see them live.
twice. We saw them on the Blind tour, and we saw them
Yeah,
on the Staff and Silence tour at Lakewood Civic
that's right.
Auditorium.
Baby, yeah, Blind. Yeah, yeah, that's
Mhm.
right, I forgot. Oh, man. John and I have known each other for a long
I
time.
know. And we have same taste in comics, same taste in music. There's a reason why we're best friends.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, part of the 25-year rule, by the way. A book that you probably don't know about, as much as you like this group, it is Young Justice: The Secret, #1. Did you know this is the first appearance of Young Justice?
I had no idea. No, I did not.
I didn't either. I thought, oh, I'm going to pick Young Justice #1 for this week's 25-year rule because I knew it was in 1998. I had no idea that that was not the first appearance of Young Justice. There was a fifth week event for DC called Girl Frenzy. Okay, yeah, whatever. I guess it was all centered around new female characters. And this one shot was the first appearance of Young Justice, Robin, Impulse, and Superboy as they unite to capture a superpowered girl named Secret. This book, believe it or not, was the start of a franchise that ran for years, including using that Young Justice branding for a Cartoon Network TV series, which, to be fair, wasn't really an adaptation of Young Justice. It was more like a mashup of Young Justice and Teen Titans, but
Mhm. I like
whatevs, they used the name.
yeah, it was a good show.
The last sale for this book was for a CGC 9.8 in October of 2018 for $195. So that tells me there's zero interest in this book. While Young Justice #1 proper sold for $125 in November of last year. Why are these books so under the radar? I thought Young Justice was a lot more popular than this.
I think it's just DC syndrome, you know? It's DC books are just at a low right now in value. Although, you know, if you talk about Silver Age books, you're seeing a spike in DC Silver stuff. But yeah, it's anything other than Silver, I think, is hitting a low. We'll wait to see what happens with Mr. Gunn and if he can revitalize the movie franchise, which would pull up the value of these books too.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't hurt. It hurts that there's not currently a Young Justice series happening. The last one was in 2021. Also, this cover is awful. They're not on the cover. It's just like this monochromatic cover with a silhouette of Secret. I mean, way to bury the good stuff, DC, under this cover. But it is what it is. You guys tell us, why is Young Justice The Secret and Young Justice #1 so underrated?
Why doesn't DC just their animated stuff is so much better than their live action. Instead of putting out a live action movie, why don't they put out 6 animated series for the same money? I, I think it would be a better return on their investment.
It probably would be. But speaking of potential animated series that would be really cool, let's move on to our underrated books of the week. You've got one that I'd love to see animated.
Oh my god! I said, John, one of the panels from this comic, which is definitely not safe for work, and it's just an amazing book. My pick is Air Pirates Funnies #1 from 1971. It's published by Hell Comics. Wikipedia says it's published by Last Gasp, which is the publisher for Cherry Pop Tart. And it says in a couple different places. So I'm going to go with what CGC says because that's what matters in this case, which is Hell Comics. It's famous for being an unlicensed parody of Mickey Mouse. This is back in the early 70s. Daniel Neal was the impetus for this title, and he championed a fight against Disney. To quote Wikipedia, Dan O'Neill imagined Mickey Mouse to be a symbol of conformist hypocrisy in American culture and therefore a ripe target for satire. Okay, this is a counterculture person at his heart. And he published this book, which is again, it's an unlicensed parody of Mickey Mouse, where Mickey Mouse and the other Disney characters are doing things like having sex and doing drugs.
He's still living in the 70s.
Yeah. He published this book with the intention of being sued by Disney. He even went as far as sneaking some copies of issue number 1 into a Disney board meeting so that it would be discovered.
Do you think that's
Uh,
true or apocryphal?
I know that's apocryphal. It's to me, it's part of the mythos behind this story. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
how do you sneak a book into a board meeting? How
well,
does
they
that
said
happen?
it was the son of one of the board members managed to get in access and snuck it in.
Okay.
He had a lot of, according to him, he had a lot of help. And you also have to remember a lot of this stuff is based off of remembrances of what happened, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So, um,
Rashomon and places.
right. Um, Yeah, so yeah, the Mickey was the main character. Disney sued him, and then he appealed, and then appealed again, and this drug out for years. Um, he Disney won a judgment of $200,000 on him, but again he appealed and appealed and appealed until finally Disney spent $2 million on legal fees and decided to call it quits and settled with the man. It's just a great story. I would love to
Is it a
uh
good story? You read it.
the story itself, no. The book itself is typical comics with an X.
Okay.
Um, it's too busy being impressed by itself, if you ask me.
Okay. Gotcha.
As a matter of fact, if you want to read it, it's available on archive.org, both issues number 1 and issue number 2. The only issues ever printed for this particular series are available, and we'll put a link in the show notes if you want to go out and read it. Thanks archive.org or
Great. Now we're
wait.
smut peddlers. Thank you, Richard.
It's history. It's a part of history. There are 276 books on the census, of which 12 are 9/8, which I'm surprised. This is printed on cheap paper. I have a copy, and this is the reason I picked this because I'm prepping a set of books to go to CGC, and I've got this book in the press right now. And I thought about I bought it because the story was just so the story behind the book was so compelling, and I think it's a historically important comic. Roz, well, okay, well, let's talk about the GPA. The 198 has sold in the past 3 years, and it sold for $1,700, $1,710 back in July.
Wow.
Um, yeah. The higher end books tend to be a little bit more expensive because the quality of the paper in this book is pretty low. So getting a 9896 is difficult. My book, I think, is a 92, maybe 94. If the press comes out nice, we'll see. You could pick up raws on eBay right now. There's a chewed up one, which is probably a 1.5 for $75, but you can get a decent copy for 150. That's what I paid. I bought my copy when we were at San Diego Comic Con a couple years
I
ago.
was with you and I saw the look of pure bliss and joy across your face when you saw it.
Oh yeah, it's a hard book to come by. The first time I ever saw it in person, and I immediately at the price picked it up. Like I said, it's a piece of comic history. It's the story itself isn't important. I find I find Dan O'Neill's um, quixotic fight against Disney to be uh, really fun and interesting. Disney had no choice. Some of the stories, some of the panels, and some of the art here has poor Mickey doing things that they probably don't want to have Mickey
He's
do.
also on the receiving end of things that are okay.
There, yes, but yeah, the Disney lawyers had no choice, and I think that is more the purpose of this than it is actually the telling the story. It's making something satirizing a character to the point that the rights owner had to respond. So to get that response, my question is, he was also brought up on copyright, violations. Mickey Mouse is a character from oh gosh, I can't remember the first year of Steamboat Willie. But isn't he shouldn't he be public domain at this point? I mean, isn't
Oh,
that
that's
something?
you're opening up a whole can of worms. There's a whole public domain back and forth about Disney and how Disney is really aggressively challenging public domain laws to keep Mickey Mouse from falling into public domain. So yeah, if you want to Google it, you guys. It's a deep hole. It's a good no pun intended. It's a good read to dig into about Disney versus public domain laws. Uh, was there any second or third printing of this book? Because a lot of these undergrounds had additional printings.
There is a reprint in the 80s. I think it was 87 of this book, which is a reprint of issue number 1. There is no reprint of issue number 2 that I've seen.
How did
So
they get away with that in the 80s?
I'm assuming that it has been edited for content.
Okay.
But yeah, some of the panels are just I don't know how we would be able to.
It's an underground.
Yeah, again, it's a comics with an X, and a lot
Yep.
of things went just like Cherry Pop Tart, which is also a comic with an X, and it had a lot of sex and a lot of drugs and a lot of things that you would not see with a comic code. But that's kind of the purpose of those books, is to explore things that you couldn't explore with the comic code, and they went all out.
Exactly. Wow, good pick. My book underrated for this week is something that also was not approved by the Comic Code, but that's because the Comic Code was abolished at this point. It is Blade number 5 from 2007. Richard, look at this cover. You seen this cover before?
I have not, no.
You've got Blade the vampire with Wolverine's 3 claws through his chin with the 3 points sticking out of the top of his head. And Blade's just got a little smile on his face, like, huh, like this is going to hurt me. Great cover. This was a Civil War tie-in, obviously guest starring Wolverine. Inside, you've got some really good later Howard Chaykin art. I like this era of Howard Chaykin. I know some people are divided on it. I do like this. But really, let's be honest, it's all about this Jurjevic cover. Your favorite artist, Richard, when it comes to covers, Jurjevic. This one does not go for $40,000, unfortunately, like the Ultimate Fallout 4 Jurjevic cover. The last sale for a CGC 9.8 of this book was this very month for $120, which was a lot more than I thought it was when I picked this to be an underrated book today. But the 90-day average for a 9.8 is $92. So that's a little bit of an outlier this last sale for $120. Meanwhile, raws on eBay go anywhere from $6 to $15 for the higher grades. So it's still a very attainable book, obtainable. It is a classic cover. I don't think this cover gets enough notice. Maybe when Blade enters the MCU and meets Wolverine, this will become a thing.
No, I think it's a great pick. We know the Blade movie is coming. We know Wolverine is coming, and I think a battle between the two of them would be awesome, awesome.
Yes.
And if that does happen, then this book is going to see a spike
For sure. A spike through the head. 3 of them. And with that dad pun out of the way, we're going to wrap it up for this week. Richard, where can they find us?
They can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods, or on the website bronzeandmoderngods.com.
Thank you guys for all your support as we inch closer to 5,000 subscribers. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell a friend, and make sure you hit that notification bell if you have not already. We'll see you next time.
Everybody, stay safe.